And today I'll introduce my project, Value Transmission on TikTok. And we specifically look on the adolescence on the TikTok. So let me introduce myself.
Yeah, so click the screen, click the PowerPoint, and because that way it's not taking you forward. So just click that and then see if that works. Does the clicker work now? Yes. Okay.
That's good. Thank you for the technical help. Okay, so let me introduce myself. So I started my journey with my bachelor degree in computer science. And then I used computational tools and completed my master's in medicine faculty. I took all my expertise to the biotech industry, as David already said. And there I used computational tools for development. But I worked over, I think, almost 2 decades in the biotech industry, and I wanted to deepen my knowledge. So I came back to a PhD, also in medicine. But it was until I started my teaching pedagogy certificate that I understood that my real passion is child development. I really wanted to deepen my knowledge in social sciences and to use all my expertise in computational to do that. So it brings us to my current postdoc position. I want to tell you about my current research. Okay, so we are really interested in understanding how influencers shape adolescent values on TikTok. So our research questions are as follows. What values are being transmitted through TikTok? What strategies do influencers use to effectively convey their values? And we want to identify these values using AI tools to enlarge our data set and to be able to understand bigger questions. So the reason I'm here is to take this project further and to use all your network analysis expertise to understand how these values propagate across and within TikTok. So also for the influencers and the adolescents. Okay, so our agenda for today is a little bit of theoretical background. I'll explain what are values and why this research is important. I'll tell you how we build this TikTok data set. And to answer how and whether we can predict those values using AI tools, I'll tell you about the NLP models that are currently existing for value classifications and about the strategies of the influencers. And I'll leave time for discussion for the network analysis for value spread and propagation. So this is almost done. A week ago, we completed our TikTok data set. And now I made a proof of concept of this NLP model on another data set of values. So we have the pathway to take now the TikTok data set and to ask whether it can predict the values. So this, as I said, I will leave for discussion at the end. Okay, so let's start from the theoretical background. So as a mom of teenagers, I can tell you that it's very hard to get their eye contact. This is a regular gathering of teens. Each one of them is on his phone. So I really ask myself, who are the influencers that influence their lives? I mean, usually it was parents, teachers, but now they're almost all the time on their phones. So who are they? So all of you know that social media is a major influence. Over 5 billion users and increasing each year. And 67% of the teens are on TikTok, so the majority are there. So when we look on the available research on social media influencers, we see that most is on marketing and commercialization. And we wanted to ask, as I said, what and who are the influencers that affect the lives of the teens, not the purchasing of them, but I mean the purchasing of the teens, but their lives and perspective of life. This is the reason we are looking on the Schwartz model of values. Values are aspirational goals. It dictates our behavior and everything we are doing. So the Schwartz theory is a well-established theory over 80 cultures, and it's a hierarchical one. As you can see here at the top level, we have 4 divisions of the values. So we have openness to change, self-enhancement, conservation, and self-transcendence. In the next level, we have the 10 Schwartz values. For example, in the openness to change, we have self-direction and stimulation. In the conservation, we have security and conformity. And we have an even deeper resolution of 19 values. This is the resolution we used in this project. So for instance, in the openness to change in the self-direction, we have self-direction thought and action. In security, we have personal and social. So this is a circular motivational continuum because adjacent values are similar ones. That means that a person that holds one value is most probably will hold the one that is adjacent to it. However, opposite values like openness to change and conservation contradict. They usually not coexist. And when you look on self-enhancement, it's the opposite for self-transcendence, meaning a person won't probably will hold these 2 values together. So these values are very stable. As I said, over 80 cultures, we get the same 10 core values. And they are stable through life. A person won't change his values unless something really harsh will happen. And the reason for us to look at adolescence is because during this time, the teens established their values. So we wanted to understand what influences them. Okay, so now we'll move and I'll tell you how we built the dataset, the different dataset. So how we selected those influences. So we prompted several AI, LLMs, large language models, and asked them what and which influencers are appealing to adolescents. And we also used a survey of Australian and Israeli teens to create this list. So out of 200 influencers, we filtered this list by 2 research associates. So they took only the influencers that their posts were appealing to adolescents by their view. And they only took macro and mega, meaning more than million or 100,000 to 1 million viewers for each influencer. And they made sure that the fame the influencer got their fame from the social network. And they try to balance by gender and genre. So we got to a list of 100 influencers, and for each one, they took 10 posts, the ones that were pinned and the most recent one. And we produced a corpus of 1,000 posts. So now, I'm just showing the diversity of the genres that we have in our corpus. So from gaming, lifestyle, crafts, singing, dancing, everything is there. So now when we have those 1,000 posts, something like 7 arrays went for the process of annotation. So we annotated the values and we annotated the strategies that the influencers used to convey the values. So let me explain. For each of the 19 values, you remember the circle, like the deeper hierarchy. The arrays needed to label -1 for contradicting value, 1 for present values, and 2 for dominant values. Let's see together the TikTok. Oh, why can't we hear it? Technical issue. Oh, because my computer is muted because of the. So how can we do it?
Maybe you could temporarily unmute it and then remute it. So let's see.
Let's try.
So it's making pasta with 10,000 eggs. That is insane. Oh, it's like a sea of eggs. How many pounds of pasta is this gonna make? This will make probably like 550 pounds. So like 1 single recipe. Yeah. We got together with Peter's Pasta and his team to turn these 10,000 eggs into an insane amount of pasta. How many people do this? People had probably easily 2,500 people. And then we opened up a free food truck to give away every last bit. There was absolutely nothing wasted. Any leftover food was donated to local food banks, which will have enough pasta to last for months. Thank you to Peter's Pasta and his team for making this happen.
Okay.
Or maybe you could also click the OK in the upper right, because I think that doesn't mean to. That's just alerting you. Yeah, perfect.
And slideshow.
I think up there, click that to the thing up there. Oops.
No, usually it
was a-
writes. It writes like this slideshow on Google Slides, and now I can see. Okay. Finally, sorry for all the technical issues. I hope you enjoyed the TikTok.
Yes.
Imagine looking on 1,000. So this is Mr. Beast, and as you saw, humility was something that contradicts this video because he is nothing about seeing himself as like insignificant in this world. So it contradicts because it's a grand operation and he wants to change the world. So this is contradicting value. However, there is the universalism concern and security social are present because he feeds all those people. And it's very dominant, his achievement is like a grand operation that he succeeded, and power resources are there. So now you know how we annotated all those posts, And now we can take all this information and answer our research question, what values are being transmitted. So another question we were asking is what strategies do influencers use to convey those values? And as we saw in the past, Mr. Beast used a lot of entertainment. It was challenging, extreme positive emotion, and uniqueness. It was approachable because ordinary people were in the background. It was very attractive because he used the Peter Pasta Corporation. And many expertise were there. It's his personal experience. It has credibility and reliability. And there was a lot of numbers in this post. So this is how we annotated the strategies. And now we can go further and answer our question whether we can use AI tools to predict values on TikTok. So as I told you, just a week ago, we finished to annotate this corpus. So what I did, I looked on available NLP models for value classification, and I used another data set of values at workplace to ask whether we can annotate, whether we can predict on another data set, the existing NLP tools. So for that, for the AI solution, we need to download all those videos, and we are collaborating with Oren Shitrit, who did his postdoc here at the Network Science Institute in David's lab. So his team downloaded all the videos along with the descriptions and the comments of all the posts. And I'll show you the existing value classifier. And I'll show you how I did a proof of concept with the other data set after fine-tuning. So the available classifier. Last year, there was a contest in which groups were asked to predict values in arguments. So this was a corpus of over 5,000 arguments that 3 annotators annotated. So let me show you just what is an argument and how it looks like. So this person is against prohibiting school prayers. So he wants to allow if the student wants to pray, as long as it doesn't interfere with his classes. So we see here this person's freedom to choose the self-direction thought and action, because it's a prayer, it's also tradition. And it's very important to him, the academic success, as long as it is not interfering with his classes. So also achievement is there. So now the groups took all the 5,000 arguments and tried to build a model to predict the values through the arguments. So this is the winning model that I used, the Adam Smith one. This is the architecture of the winning model. So premise, stance, and conclusion is, as I showed you, the argument construction. And then they used derivations of BERT, Liberta, and IBM and Berta. They did 3 different separations of the training set. This is why it's 3 folds for each. And they did one-time maximization for F1 score and one-time minimization for the loss function. This is why it yielded 12 models that were average for their predictions. The predictions are percentages, and then they needed to determine a threshold. That from this threshold, they determine whether the value exists, is present or not. And then they gave the prediction for all of the 19 values. So this is their success rate. So the precision recall and the F1, which is the harmonic mean of these two, are around 0.3. But as you remember, we have 19 values, so it's an average of all of them. So some values are better predicted and some are worse. So in order to use this model for TikTok, we'll have to make some changes in the architecture because this is a binary prediction, present or not, and we have the scale of -1 and 2. And I will show you how I did a proof of concept on the other data set of values at work. So we collaborated with Joanna Reilly, who is the PI in the Hebrew University, and she asked workers to describe their 3 primary work goals. And 2 research assistants annotated them for the Schwartz model of 10 values. So she had 2 data sets, Asian American and Indian American, so 2 cultures. So I used this Asian data set to fine-tune the Adam-Smith, the winning model with it, and we got some promising results. So what you can see here on the x-axis are the values that were over this threshold of 15 participants that had those values in their goal. So this is the frequency on this y-axis. And these are 2 line graphs with the F1 score. This light blue line graph represents the F1 score when just using the winning model for each value. And the black blue is after fine-tuning with the same data set. So when we look on the macro, it's not surprising that we get such an increase because the model already saw this data. However, when we do a validation on the other data set of the Indians, then we still get a really nice improvement. Again, this is the frequency, this is the winning model of Adam-Smith, and this is after fine-tune of the Asian data set. So we are encouraged by these results, and now we want to take, as I told you, the TikTok corpus and fine-tune the winning model with it. So going to TikTok, there are some challenges. So what we saw here was text, plain text, and all those models are mainly language model for text, but TikTok is mainly visual. And I want to show you a specific post that only the combination of the visual and the text will enable us to understand what values are presented. So these are the stopped twins.
So,
I'm waiting for my boyfriend. He wants to break up. I don't really want to. I don't think it's meant to be. Oh, there he is! Oh, that's not him.
Right, we want here. Second time is easier. Okay, so in this post, I showed you why we need the integration of those 2 media. So the contradicting value was universalism concern. He didn't really was concerned about her, just if she had no boyfriend. And the conformity interpersonal was present because in our society, if she has a boyfriend, he doesn't supposed to come. So it's present. And it's very dominant, the face. He didn't want to be humiliated. So this is an example, this is a unique example in which we needed two media in order to assign the values. So one of Oren's students had a really good idea of doing like a video script that includes all the scene and the music and the speech for each video. So how to do that? It's still a work in process. But the idea is to take all the information and to convert it to text. Okay, so just before we go to our discussion, I want to mention some TikTok network challenges that we have. So there is lack of transparency because the distribution algorithms are not disclosed. And it's a limited user interconnectivity because TikTok is focused on content, but rather than user-to-user connections. And the engagement is ambiguity because it's different to differentiate between genuine engagement and passive content consumption. And it's a really rapid content turnover because viral challenges and trends can appear and disappear quickly. So it's complicated for longitudinal studies. And again, before we get to the discussion, I just want to thank my PI, Professor Alina, and Dr. Nama Appel, who is my colleague. She trained all the research assistants for annotating the posts, and Dr. Sharon Ariely from the Hebrew University, who was collaborating with us about the the values at workplace. And of course, Dr. Aaron Sur, who is our collaborator on this project. So now we can go back to the discussion, and I would love to hear your questions and thoughts about how to deepen and propagate these values on TikTok. Thank you.
Before we begin with questions,